So Notre Dame, they're one of the two teams still alive here, playing for the big trophy, and they have a big addition for next year, and that is former Virginia Tech standout safety Jalen Stroman. So he missed pretty much the entire year, got hurt against Vanderbilt in game 1, game that Vanderbilt really announced themselves to the college football world. And Stroman got hurt in that game, so missed the season, but had a really big junior year. And after that injury, sat out the rest of the year, so preserved this last year of eligibility. And he's going to be headed to Notre Dame, where it's a pretty young room there. Aiden Schuler has been a starter for them this year, but they're losing Watts, their other starter. So they're going to need someone to come in here, and that's Stroman, who is coming in as the only scholarship safety with only a year of eligibility left. So everyone has multiple years. It's a young room. So Stroman coming in as a guy who's experienced, and if he can get back healthy here, right, as he's been out, so he should be ready to go 100%. But really impressive player in the ACC his junior year.
Yeah, brothers in the NFL. He would have been in the NFL if not for his injury, right? So it's kind of like a Carson Beck situation to Miami, where the reason he's in college as opposed to the pros is the injury. If not for the injury, this is a guy who would be hearing his name called in the NFL draft. That's how he was projected before the season. Again, his brother was a draft pick for the Washington Redskins, his brother Greg. So 6'1", 200 pounds. You look at the stats, like you mentioned. He has been very, very productive. And as a junior, which was his best year, 55 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups, quarterback hurry, all over the field against Purdue. And I think at the safety position, you want guys that are experienced and are smart. I mean, look, there's a Caleb Downs that comes in as a freshman and tears it up. But typically safety is a position where you got to know what's going on. You got to have some experience seeing things. And look, first game for Notre Dame, obviously they're playing for the biggest prize here coming up, but they're going right into a typical Notre Dame schedule with a lot of big-time games. Their first game is going to be at Hard Rock Stadium against the University of Miami and the aforementioned Carson Beck. So when you lose the heart and soul in many respects of your defense in Watts, to just give that role to a young player who hasn't played can be tough. So Stroman is someone who should walk right in. He's played big games. Again, NFL physical talent, NFL bloodlines, and just a ton of experience. It'll maybe take some time to learn what Coach Golden wants to do on the defensive side of the ball, but he will learn faster than most being a veteran, and there's no substitution for the experience of having seen it, right, and been able to perform at the Power 4 level, which Stroman has done. Again, this Virginia Tech defensive backfield, man, they had you would have thought all these guys were going to be going pro, and now so many filtered around the rest of the country at other big-time schools.
And it's interesting because you see in the NFL how a lot of the moves you make as a team in the offseason is because you're playing within your division. How do you match up in your division? I'm not saying that's the case here, but it is interesting that Stroman, a guy in the ACC, they have familiarity with playing Miami week 1. I'm not saying that move is just for that game, but I think when you see these kind of interconference, yes, Notre Dame's an independent, but they're very familiar with ACC football, right? When you see this sort of movement, it just makes you wonder, how much of it is because of certain matchups on the schedule next year.
And to your point, Pete, people are going to scream, we're not in the ACC. They start the season at Miami. They also play Pitt, Boston College, NC State, Syracuse. So, I mean, you're basically playing
a guy who has played a lot of these guys.
This is an ACC schedule. So that to me is a fair point, Pete, and interesting that you're basically playing an ACC schedule next year for Notre Dame, and you have a guy who has excelled at the ACC level.
Without a doubt.